I just came back from Las Vegas from my first Evo ever. Evo 2024 Evolution Championship Series. Is that the full name? Let me double check that. Whatever. It's Evo. It's the biggest fighting. Yep, Evolution Championship Series. For this year of 2024, and it's my first time going, and it was a blast, man. I was a newbie, so like I'm also super casual about things, so I don't really know who's competing. I don't know too many names, aside from like the big names and the classic legends of Evolution. That would be, like Daigo or like what's the other guy's name? Chubby dude with the glasses. Jay Wong, I think. But so I'm not like I used to love Street Fighter. I don't even own six, which is wild to me because I was anyone who knows me knows that like Street Fighter has influenced my life in so many ways, right? Like the name of this channel is Half Circle Fierce, which at one point used to be the input that you would have to put to throw a Hadouken for Ryu or Ken. Um, Now it's just like down forward, right? Down forward punch. I don't even think they call the strong attack fierce anymore, do they? I'm not too sure. Maybe they do, but fierce means the strongest attack that you can do. You got light, medium, and fierce. Maybe in Japan they call it that. I'm not sure, but half circle and fierce used to be how you do the Hadouken. So, anyways, that I'm just trying to illustrate that Street Fighter has been such a huge part of my life, and for me not to even own six, that shows you like how fighting video games specifically have evolved over time. Like for such a hardcore fan like me to kind of just go and not really care whether, about these specific giant events like Evo, to just even something small like purchasing the game, right? That's literally the most tamest thing you can do to support, a fighting franchise, is just to buy the game. You don't have to go to the events or buy hoodies or, participate in anything fighting related. All you got to do is just buy the game and play it. And I didn't even do that because that right there. And it's not because I hate what Street Fighter 6 is or anything of the sort. Although I'm not too crazy about the aesthetic, I feel like over the years Street Fighter has taken this more cartoonish anime look that I'm not too fond of because I'm not a big anime guy. Uh, I'll watch one every now and then, but I'm really not a fan. I don't necessarily hate it. It's just it ain't my thing. The girl I'm with, she loves anime. She's like always watching something new. She watches old school shit, new school shit. Although she's been into like these weird Chinese dramas recently. Um, Evo was fun. It was a blast, and it really shows me that the fighting game franchise is very much alive, and I try my best not to go off the Steam charts, although that's a good indicator of what's popular nowadays, right? A very good indicator. It's not the only storefront. There's so many storefronts. There's so many launchers from all sorts of countries, from the US to Russia to Japan, you name it. And but I would say that Steam to me it's the most popular. As a matter of fact, I think that's correct. So I go by that, not because it's the most popular. Well, not only because it's the most popular, but if I want a good general consensus of how many people are playing a game, I'll go to Steam. Although I know there's a bunch of different ways that you can find out what's popular. But anyways, that's a really fucking long-winded way of me saying that fighting games are not on the Steam charts, like the top 100. So just to put things in perspective, like there's about 40,000 games on Steam, right? So even if you were number 100, I've said this before, I'm sure. Even if you were number 100 on the list, that's still a fucking accomplishment, man, because you beat out like 39,900 games. You do the math. That was probably terrible math, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm looking at the charts and I'm like, I see Street Fighter as like 99 or something like that. So I'm like, oh, sweet. Street Fighter is still pretty much in there. I see Brawlhalla too. But I've never played Brawlhalla and I don't know anything about it. But I do know it's some sort of like a Smash clone, or it's inspired by Smash, Super Smash Brothers. So it does count as a fighting game. So the only two fighting games that I saw, like purely fighting games, not games that have fighting in them, like what's that game called? Mir 4 or something like that. I don't know. That's like a PvP fighting game that's very fantasy based or whatever. But that almost seems like an MMO also. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is a purely fighting game, but I'm talking about like classic formula fighting games, with rounds. And so I would count Brawlhalla as one of those. Definitely Street Fighter, but to see it at number 99 is like it's amazing that it is number 99, but it's also like, you know, that goes to show you like that even though Evo is still alive and kicking, and fighting video games specifically are still alive and kicking, they're nowhere near as popular as they used to be. I equate them to like boxing and MMA, right? Like at one point boxing was king while MMA was just, no one's heard of it. They called it cage fighting and it was for savages. There wasn't any weight classes, and it was like just put two dudes in a cage, and it's like, it was as barbaric as it can get. It wasn't established. There were no rule sets, but boxing was king at this time, right? 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and the current time. Well, not so much the current time. I take that last part back. But point is, at one point, boxing was king, and now look at the roles have reversed. Now, the sport of MMA that was once known as brute savages just competing inside of a cage. Now they're king. Now people watch way more UFC than they do boxing. Boxing has kind of taken a back seat. It's still not fully gone, and it's crazy because those two parallels are so similar because and they gel so well because what better comparison to a fighting video game than boxing, right? Like what better parallel? They're literally they inspire each other. More of like video games are inspired by boxing. I don't think boxing is inspired by video games. Maybe I'm wrong, but point is they both have so many similarities aside from the actual you punching a person in the face, right? Like they both were very popular at one point. Like I remember I was alive during the arcade days, when Street Fighter dominated any other arcade game there was. There were lines to play Street Fighters. People would put their quarters on top of the joysticks on the cabinet on the side of the joystick just to let people know like, hey man, I've got next. And it was, you know, and not just Street Fighter, even though Street Fighter was king, it was also Mortal Kombat, Tekken. There were all those cabinets, arcade cabinets were, always occupied. And then to see it now, fast forward to 2024, where it's like, not so many people are playing fighting games. Even my friends that like, I have two particular friends. Well, one is my cousin and one is my friend, and me and both of them were hardcore Street Fighter fans. We would play Street Fighter for hours, like till the early hours of the morning. Like it was insane how much time we dropped on Street Fighter. Street Fighter 4 specifically. Was it Street Fighter 4? Maybe Street Fighter 5. Probably Street Fighter 4. But because we were playing like on an Xbox, we were all console kids. And, you know, this was the first game that I've gotten into that I can say was like PvP. Like, I never really was into PvP games considering I was always a single player. I've said this a million times. But like, fighting games are the only type of games that I wouldn't mind going online and fighting random strangers in, which I did often in Street Fighter. But I mostly liked playing against my friends. That was where I derived most of my fun. So both boxing and fighting video games kind of took a big hit. They're nowhere near as popular. But every now and then, like in boxing, there comes a fight, right? Or there's some sort of a big draw that brings the casual fans out from the woodworks to come watch this fight. You know, uh, thank God boxing is still very much alive today, thanks to people like Jake Paul. Now, I know some of you, as a matter of fact, I know a lot of you just heard that name and was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Out of all the people that I could have named, Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevensons, the Errol Spences, the fucking Ryan Garcias. I said Jake Paul because look, it's very easy to hate that kid, right? He was a former Disney kid, does a lot of cringe shit, comes out like out of his entrances with like guys in robot suits. It's just it's embarrassing. It's very easy to hate him, but you can't deny his talent. You can't deny that his fundamentals are solid. Is he like a professional boxer? No, he's a solid amateur with great fundamentals and a killer right hand. But people don't like to give props to people they don't like. That's the issue here, right? Like it's very easy to hate on him. Just same thing with McGregor. People forget that if I'm not mistaken, he's the first double champ. Maybe I'm wrong in the UFC at least. Uh, to be first of all to be a champion, it's hard. Just a champion of one division. To be two champions, that's incredible. And McGregor was one of those people. And it's very easy to hate the McGregor of today that, sharp suit wearing, shit talking, very often horrible takes on fights and people and attacking everyone, drinking, possibly doing drugs. Don't know. There's a lot of rumors going on. He's hitting the good old coca. I don't know, but it's very easy to hate that this almost shadow of a former self. Like he's playing like a classic villain, you know, almost. But it's very easy to hate McGregor, but people forget that this guy was insanely talented. Same thing with Jake Paul. Not only is he talented, I wouldn't say insanely talented, but he's definitely talented. But he's also a phenomenal businessman. He knows how to get your eyes to watch his fights, whether illegally you're streaming it or whether legally you've went out there and you've bought it. He knows how to get eyes on fights. You know, you might hate hearing that, but that's just the truth. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that even though boxing is still alive today, and it's nowhere near as popular. And not only that, though, I do like when people like Jake Paul and the Shakur Stevensons and the Crawfords, they all bring people out of the woodwork. Just recently, when Jesus, who just fought Tank Davis fought. Oh, God damn it, what was his name? It'll take me forever to think about it. But anyways, they just had a fight recently, and lots of casuals, people who normally don't watch fights. They are lots of people at my job. People who know me, they know I'm into combat sports. They know I'm into like boxing, MMA, and all that. So lots of them come up to me, and we all talk fights. I've had people who normally don't talk about fights come up to me and talk about fights. So I was like, damn, that's how I know this fight's big. When you've got like the super casuals. Not that I'm a hardcore, but I have been following the sports, man, since a kid. And I'm hitting 40 next year. So since a kid, I've been watching boxing, and now that I'm older, I'm watching a lot more MMA than boxing. But point is, it's cool to have this, right? It's cool to have that boxing still has that excitement that it did back then when Tyson was fighting, right? Whenever Mike Tyson was fighting, you've had fucking professors who never gave a shit about boxing. You had pacifists crawl out of the woodwork to come watch these fights, and I love that. I'm like, that's great, that this fight's so big you can't miss it. It's awesome. So fighting video games, right? Like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are as popular as, Fortnite or anything like that. I doubt it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just going off the Steam charts here. I didn't do the general consensus all the way around, but I'm not saying that fighting video games are like they're not dying. I don't think they're dying. I just don't think they're as popular. They're still around, like The Simpsons, right? The Simpsons were at one point at their apex. Now they're still around. People don't watch them. And the last show that I watched, I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't necessarily like it. And I didn't necessarily hate it. I felt like it was very tame. Like I don't know. The point is, it's it's not sad. I guess that's just evolution. No pun intended. But I think that really is just evolution. I think people just gravitate. I don't think PvP is dead, but I do think fighting video games aren't as popular. PvP is still alive in the form of like shooting, in the form of more modern combat, which would be guns. And I'm glad it is, man. I really do. I do feel like, along with everything popular, once something becomes popular, people just tend to milk it and it gets annoying because, you start to see 50, 60, 70 types of the same game. I've spoken about this in my Dark Souls video as well as any in my PvP videos. Like once a formula gets popular, everybody wants to capitalize on it, and it becomes kind of exhausting. Like not literally exhausting. That was a dramatic word to use. It becomes annoying, and it becomes tiring. To every time I go on Steam and it's like there's a new extraction game because extraction right now it's becoming a huge thing, right? And it my thoughts on extractions are easy. I'll keep it simple since this is supposed to be a fighting game video, but extraction games always sound good on paper, but they all end up taking the same path. All of them. It's like they video game developers and publishers, they advertise PvP VE games as such. They go, "Oh, this is a game where you can work together or kill each other." And it's like, no, no. Every single PvP VE game ends up becoming a PvP game. It ends up becoming a game where it's kill on sight or barely people help each other out. It becomes just a PvP game. That's just what happens. Maybe that I know for a fact that these developers and these publishers, they know this. They know the road. They see the trends that other video games that are similar to theirs eventually undergo. So I know that they think like, oh, well, my video game will start off as a PvPvE game and eventually just morph into a PvP game, just like every other game that's like of this ilk ends up becoming, right? Maybe that's what they anticipate. Maybe it's a long-term plan. I don't know anything about business, and I don't know anything about the inner workings. I don't know what's behind the curtains in the industry, but I will say that I'm sure that they kind of really don't care. I don't mean that literally. I'm just saying like if their game ends up becoming a purely PvP game, then they're like, okay, so be it. As long as people play it, kind of like DayZ, right? It's just like it would be nice to work with people together and actually, that this is why I think AI bandits are always a good thing, right? And this is why at least there's a PvE aspect to a PvP game that has PvE elements. At least there's PvE elements. At least there's other things to kill besides the player. Because in DayZ, besides zombies and like wolves and like bears, like there's really no other threat to kill besides players. So I really feel like if you added AI bandits that you can loot, right? And depending on the area, they have different tiers of loot. I do feel like this gives people more of an incentive to group up together and actually go out there and kill things together instead of each other, right? Because you can go, oh, well, I don't have to kill Timmy if I can just go kill this AI for that same gun, So I don't know. It would be nice if people just worked a little more together. Hence why my favorite type of video games are co-op games, like more like PvE games where a group of people work against the AI or whatever the case may be. Whatever, man. Everyone's different. I definitely don't see boxing as well as fighting video games going like completely kaput, completely extinct anytime soon. So like this isn't a video of like, oh man, I remember back then when things used to be better. That's not the case. It's just this is just evolution. That I really do think like I'm okay with fighting video games and boxing not being as popular. I wish it wasn't. If I can press a button where the glory days of Street Fighter will come back and the glory days of boxing will come back, I will mash that button down. I really would. But it makes sense. It makes sense that MMA has become more popular because you can actually use your entire body. Not only that, you can choke people. There's so many strategies. There's so many ways to approach a fight instead of just two guys standing there just punching each other with their hands. And it's like nothing wrong with that. It's still exciting to me, but it's just MMA fights is just way more exciting. So to me, in my brain, it makes sense that it's just people are just more interested in MMA than they are with boxing. And also, um, there's just something more exciting about shooting someone than it is beating someone up. Now, I may be in a minority, but I would say it makes sense to me why people play PvP games that are gun oriented as opposed to PvP games that are like fist oriented, hand to hand melee combat oriented. They like to play snipers, you know, shooting. Well, snipers is shooting. Snipers, automatic guns, pistols. There's so many things you can do. I just feel like it makes sense. I have more fun playing shooting games than I do melee games. Once again, this is anecdotal. Maybe somebody else, I'm sure plenty of other people feel different, but to me, both both make sense to me why they're not as popular, both boxing and fighting games. And to me, that's one of the reasons. I'm not even mad about it. I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. But I still don't want boxing or fighting games to go away. I still want to see new fighting games. I still want to see new up and coming boxers. Did I just shut this off? No, I didn't. And thankfully, I do. I do look at the young kids that are killer. I named them all. Well, not all, but I named a lot of them. They're all young, man, all of them. And then you still got some of the old heads still out there killing it. You still got the Lumachenkos. You still got the Canelos. You know what I mean? And then you've got the newer guys. You still got the Furies. Like, there's a lot of older guys mixed with the newer guys, and I love seeing that shit, man. It's exciting times for combat sports. It really is. I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be nice to see some sort of a new formula being invented as opposed to the old school formula that Street Fighter has pioneered, which is the round system, right? Best two out of three, right? That's usually the default option in a fighting game that many other fantastic franchises have kind of took, right? Tekken, Virtual Fighter, is it Dead or Alive, SNK, Fatal Fury, King of the Fighters, Blaze Blue, Guilty Gear. Like, so many of these have taken the round based system. Maybe we're due, maybe it's time for a new system, right? Some sort of another system that's not round based, something revolutionary that can revitalize the fighting game genre. Once again, not that the fighting game genre is dead, but just it could use a shot in the arm. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know. I can't sit here and think of a system. I was gonna say I'm sure if I have enough time, which I fucking do, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. But it would be nice to come up with some sort of a system that's not round based that'll make like fighting games pretty cool. Now that I think about it. I don't know what it could be. See, now my head's spinning, and and I don't forget that I'm supposed to be talking here. But that'll be cool. I would like to see. I've seen other video games take stabs at it, like Smash, for example. They don't. I don't. I think they do have rounds actually, but they have this percentage system that every hit takes a chunk of percentage out of your life, and it works. But I don't know. Like maybe something. And Bushido Blade has tried it also, but I think that's also round based. And but it was kind of cool that one fatal hit can kill you. I always thought that was super interesting. Um, Also, Bushido Blade's a dope game. I don't care what anyone says. The Bushido Blade 2 is also cool. I'm not sure if there was a 3. Maybe there was. It's been so long since I played any of these. It would be nice to see a comeback of some sort. Um, Maybe they can go that route. Maybe the next big hit of a fighting game can go the more realistic route where it doesn't take a lot of blows to die. um, or maybe they'll go a whole different way. But I do want to see something fresh, right? Now, as far as boxing, how much can you really evolve that sport, right? Like how much? Like boxing involves a lot of footwork, but you have to hit with both hands, and that's it. There's no kicking, there's no takedowns. So it's like boxing, no matter how you can change the rules up, I guess to zest it up a little bit. Maybe zest is not the perfect word to use because zesty is taking a whole different meaning nowadays. But to spice it up, you can probably change the rules around for boxing and make things interesting. I know PFL, Professional Fighters League, I believe that's what it's short for. For those that don't know, it's like a MMA company, and they have this point system that I don't understand. I heard it recently on the JRE podcast when he was talking about it, and I was like, okay, so shit, if he doesn't understand, and this man lives and breathes combat sports, like if he doesn't understand it, fuck, my chances are dead. And I really sat there and I try to like kind of understand. I don't even. Not only do I not understand the point system in PFL, I don't understand the schedules. It's like this is the fighter season, and this one right here is regular seasons. This is playoffs, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why are they convoluting? But I get it. They're trying their hardest to get eyes on their product, and makes perfect sense to me, right? Like what better way than to kind of go into your own lane, kind of start your own trend? And props for them to try, but it's just it don't get it. It's convoluted, and I hope that they find either another route or drop that shit altogether. I don't know, but yeah. So I didn't speak much about my experience in Evo, to be honest, because I mean, it's if you've been to a convention, then you'll know what it's like to go to Evo. Like some conventions are bigger, like this one, for example, and then there's some conventions that are smaller, but they all pretty much have the same vibe. Lots of like-minded individuals, lots of stands where you can buy water bottles and, you know, fucking memorabilia and artwork and hoodies and t-shirts and food, and they have little stations where you can sit down and free play. They had arcades over there. I only went for Sunday. I didn't go for. I went just to watch the Street Fighter finals. I didn't go to watch Mortal Kombat or Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear or anything else that they had on there. Although those games are dope. And coming to think about it, if I ever do go back, it ain't gonna be for a while because first of all, Vegas is the hottest. Nevada is the hottest place I've ever been to in my life. And when I got there one day, I think it was the second day we were there, it was like 114 degrees of fucking dry desert heat. And everyone keeps telling me, right? Because I live in the East Coast. They're like, well, at least it's not humidity. Humidity would make it worse. And I'm like, I don't know how much worse it can get if it's 114 degrees. You know what I mean? Like how much room do I have for it to get worse? It feels pretty fucking bad out here. The heat was like insane. We had to, if we went out during the day, we made sure that we went to like AC cooled places. Like we did a lot. We did a lot. But at night, like when we walked the strip, I'm like, yeah, we gotta make sure it's like evening because that sun is brutal. So, but all in all, I had a blast. I did. I don't know if I'll go back to Evo next year. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. I know I will be watching. That's for sure, and I will be watching uh all 3 days this time instead of just Sunday. Um, and that's not because I hated it or anything. I actually really enjoyed my time in Vegas. It's one of the best trips I've ever had. It's not the best trip I've ever had, but it's definitely one of the best. And yeah, I guess I'm not going back just because it's from Pennsylvania to Nevada. It's like a 5 hour flight, and I know to some people that ain't shit, but 5 hours sitting around freezing my ass off because I didn't bring a hoodie. The first time, at least, I bought one at a mall. I said, fuck that, I'm not freezing my ass. Also, I flew Frontier, which I don't think I ever will again. On the way back, I flew American Airlines, but usually I'm not a snob about flying airplanes. I'm like, dude, I get the cheapest one. I don't care. But this particular plane, it didn't even have like power outlets, and they were just trying to charge you for everything. They were making people like size their bags up, and I was just like, ugh, like. And so I guess someone put it best in the comments because I was looking. I went online to check if Frontier Airlines has power outlets where I can plug my laptop in and play some games for this 5 hour flight. I didn't know this. I should have prepared beforehand, but they said no. And then one guy said it best, or one girl said it best. They said, that's the problem with these discount airlines. Everything else, everything that's extra, you have to pay for. And I was just like, damn, that's fucking true, man. But anyways, that's the reason. Nothing against Frontier. It's not personal. And also, I wouldn't mind taking Frontier again if it's a short trip. Like if it's like a 2 hour flight somewhere, maybe even a 3 hour flight, and that's the cheapest I can get. Sure, I'll fly Frontier. I don't give a shit. But a 5 hour plus flight, nah, never again. I need something to charge my phone and whatever. Point is, besides me sounding like a complete fucking snob right now, uh, yeah, that's it. It's a 5 hour flight, and we're in the hot desert heat, and I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm doing this again. But it was fun, and I'm glad I got to experience it, even if I only experienced it one time in my life. It was totally worth it. The convention was huge. At first, I saw a pretty huge, like, what would you call that? Not a guest area, but the lines to get into the main I don't know, not presentation. What would you call it? It's like not an auditorium neither, but like the center, the biggest, basically where they film Evo at the finals. Everything's like purple, and it's like the grand stage. That's what we'll call it. In order for you to get to the grand stage or to find a seat there, like the lines are so fucking long. They're so long. You would have to be in line for hours in order for you to get a seat. We got lucky as hell. At one point, I thought we weren't because we were already standing in line for like an hour and a half, and I was like, I don't think we're gonna get this. And thank goodness one of the friends that I was with was stubborn as shit and was just like, stop bitching, Danny. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. And I was like, all right, all right. I was like, I don't think we are. I just came back from the bathroom. I looked at the line. I don't think we are. And she's like, we're gonna fucking do it. All right, stop bitching. And I was like, okay. And I went, I sat down, played with my phone. I looked up, line was moving, and I was like, maybe she's right. And then we did. We ended up getting a seat, and we all and she ended up having the best time of all, which made it worth it for me because the person who's least into these type of games and this type of atmosphere, she enjoys video games. She likes going to cons, but she doesn't follow games as much as me and my other friend do. So it was three of us in total. But the one who I thought would enjoy it the least ended up enjoying it the most. She was cheering and clapping, and she was teary eyed, and she was just, just having the time of her life. I've got videos of her. You can just hear her in the background, in the middle of like thousands of people. You can hear her voice clearly. It was great. It was fun, and I was just I was happy that they were happy, and I had a blast too. We also saw a show at the Sphere, which, god damn, 16K, this giant fucking sphere. It was awesome, man. I don't care how touristy that place is. It's fucking great, man. And it's a show that, we paid like $100 altogether after taxes, I believe. It was worth it, man. It was really worth it. We watched, what is it? I keep forgetting his name. Darren Arvlosky, director dude. Postcards from Earth. That was the name of the movie that we watched there, this presentation or whatever it is. No, not presentation, it was just a movie. It was fucking breathtaking. If you haven't gone to if you're going to town, if you're going to you're going to town. If you're going to Vegas, you should 100% check it out. As that's I feel like that's also like a once in a lifetime type thing. Like you see it once and you kind of just go like, yeah, like I'm glad I did that. Same thing with Evo. I got that same feeling when I was flying back. I was like, I'm glad I did that. That was awesome. And maybe in the future, maybe, if they move a little closer, meet me halfway, like in middle America, then maybe I'll fly back out. But 5 hours, super heat, not a fan, man. Fighting games aren't going anywhere. I'm glad that they're here. I wish that they revitalized the classic formula. I'll maybe I'll catch Street Fighter on sale. Maybe I won't. I still like playing casually. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'll still be a fan, and I'll forever be a fan. And the influences of fighting games are always going to be major in my life, And I don't care how out of quote unquote out of style, fighting games or boxing may be. I'm always going to be a fan as long as you'll allow me to be a fan. Let me get out of here. It's hot. See you guys later. I had to turn off these fans to record. I'm gonna cook something to eat because I'm starving, and I'll talk to you guys next time.